Hi, this is Joe Gilmore, and it is Friday, May 7th, 2021. And I just wanted to do a short video to say thank you and express my gratitude to those who have read my blogs, watched my videos. Um, I'm approaching 100 subscribers now on my YouTube video, which I'm certainly not bragging about. I know I'm not the most popular guy out there, but I think it's important for me to let you know that I do appreciate you paying attention to this stuff, whether you agree with it or not. Um, I'm not an academic. I know that there's people out there that are much better at this than I am, but I'm just doing my best to bring my own unique perspective and hopefully uh, bring some people into this fold who may not otherwise. We all need someone to turn us on to a point of view or a band, an album. You might have a big brother that's into rock and roll or something, or your father's record collection. And these are things that turn you on to a whole world of music. So with a particular type of thinking, when we're talking about propaganda, when we're talking about things like this, society has a lot of biases against this type of thinking, which is kind of at the root of a lot of what I do. I'm trying to unpack the way people think and why we think the way we do. And again, I'm nowhere near at the head of this movement of trying to open people's minds in this way. But I'm just coming from my own perspective. I'm using, I'm coming from the world that I know, that I grew up in, and to hopefully reach people like me who haven't quite gotten to that point yet, to really taking that overhead view of things and looking at the big picture and saying, what does this all mean? Why am I so angry? Why am I so confused? Am I really an individual? Am I really uh, standing for freedom, or am I just being used? Am I being manipulated? So, at the core of all this is the desire to be free as human beings and to not be slaves to someone else and to another system. And I thought I would just go a little bit into how my journey began with all this. And I gave this a lot of thought. And ultimately, I think for me, it began with Noam Chomsky. And I just want to say that, you know, I believe that it's important to take what you can from someone or a book or a piece of information. Take what you can from it. You don't have to take it all. Noam Chomsky, I am no expert in this man's work. I've heard him say plenty of things I don't agree with. I'm not here to tell you, oh, he's great, you should follow Noam Chomsky. I don't even know enough about the guy to give him that sort of endorsement. I'm just saying that there was a couple key things that he brought to my attention that kind of changed my entire view of the world, to be honest. And one of these moments for me was this film, Manufacturing Consent, which is also a book. And just a quick overview, the film presents and illustrates Chomsky and Herman's propaganda model thesis that corporate media, as profit-driven institutions, tend to serve and further the agendas and interests of dominant elite groups in society. A centerpiece of the film is a long examination of the history of the New York Times coverage of the Indonesian occupation of East Timor, which Chomsky says exemplifies the media's unwillingness to criticize an ally of the elite. So the way just the phrase itself, first of all, manufacturing consent, that phrase alone really got my brain going uh, to awaken or at least consider the idea that, wait a minute, is my whole life, the things that I'm into, um, has this been manufacturing? Have is the mainstream concerned with their own agenda and putting me into a position to conform to that agenda in a way that I cannot see? Are they manufacturing my consent? Uh, you know, Passive aggressively, if you will. So this was a very important point for me. I highly recommend people reading the book or watching the film. Also, another thing that impressed me about Noam Chomsky was, I'm just going to read this. This is from chomsky.info. Uh, I do not want to discuss individuals. Suppose then that some person does indeed find the petition scandalous, I think that's French for scandalous, not on the basis of misreading, but because of what it actually says. Let us suppose that this person finds Farisson's ideas offensive, even horrendous, and finds his scholarship to be a scandal. Let us suppose further that he is correct in these conclusions. Whether he is or not is plainly irrelevant in this context. Then we must conclude that the person in question believes that the petition was scandalous because Furison should indeed be denied the normal rights of self-expression, should be barred from the university, should be subjected to harassment and even violence, etc. Such attitudes are not uncommon. They are typical, for example, of American communists, and no doubt their counterparts elsewhere. Among people who have learned something from the 18th century, say Voltaire, uh, it is a truism hardly deserving discussion that the defense of the right of free expression is not restricted to ideas one approves of, and that it is precisely in the case of ideas found most offensive that these rights must be vigorously defended. So what's he talking about here? Well, first of all, Noam Chomsky, he's the son of Jewish uh, parents, so he's Jewish in that sense, and this has to do with a piece of writing that this man uh, uh, Farisson, the Frenchman, did, where he denied that there were Nazi gas chambers. He's a Holocaust denier. He's in that category. And Noam Chomsky, as a Jew, with this reputation, with the left, the far left, a lot of times, he's defending this man's uh, right to express what he's saying. And I think this is very important, especially this last part here. The defense of the right of free expression is not restricted to ideas one approves of. Free speech, if you really stand for free speech, it matters most when someone is saying something that you don't agree with or that you don't like. And in this day and age, we've come to the point where we're equating someone saying something we don't like or agree with to a violent act or something that needs to be snuffed out. And there are fine lines sometimes. This just really opened my mind up to the idea of what free speech actually is, and that it's not just about free speech for things that you like. It's about allowing for the conversation of things you don't like, and it doesn't have to be as extreme as something like this. It doesn't have to be defending the idea of someone to express their theories on the gas chambers, whether they exist or not. So that was pretty important. Also, David Icke. Now, David Icke isn't someone that I follow. I haven't read all of his books. Again, he's someone I've taken inspiration from, but I don't necessarily, uh, you know, don't assume that I believe in reptiles. Is what I'm trying to say. I don't, are there reptilians running the country and the world? Hey, there might be. Okay, but I'm not there yet. Okay, I'm not uh, a David Icke, the religion follower. But he said something that really affected me, and he speaks about consciousness a lot. And there are certain subjects that he does talk about where I think he really hits the mark when he talks about consciousness. And this quote here sums a lot of it up. The human race is a herd. Here we are, unique, eternal aspects of consciousness with an infinity of potential. And we have allowed ourselves to become an unthinking, unquestioning blob of conformity and uniformity, a herd. Once we concede to the herd mentality, we can be controlled and directed by a tiny few, and we are. And I think he's right on this point. And particularly when he talks about freedom, he put the idea of freedom in a way that really profoundly affected me. And I wish I could find the quote. I can't find it. I don't even remember what video it was, but he said that he believed a lot of people go through their entire life without one original thought. That was one thing he said. And the other thing he said had to do with freedom of the human species. And he put it in such a way that you view yourself not as within the race that, your particular race or culture or country. He put it in a way to, you know, cast that all aside and just look at yourself as a human being of the planet Earth. And who would you be if you were able to push aside everything you've been taught about your culture and everything, just cast it all away? It's all gone. And now you're born into the world, and everything you learn, you start over, you start fresh. And I think what you will find is you're not simply an animal. You know, once you get to the point, you know, we're so much more than that. We're capable of so much more than simply hunting and eating and having sex and procreating. We're so much more than that. And there's a reason why we are different from the animals in that uh, we have the capacity to go much further beyond just basic survival and instinct. And I think these mechanisms in society that want to herd us together and have us adhere to their worldviews, they simply want to reduce us to this animal level and then use our energy, use us as like batteries, like in the Matrix. And this is a huge mistake for us to allow ourselves to participate into this society, because we're completely eliminating all that potential we have that basically we don't even look at from the day we're born, because we're just inundated with indoctrination and propaganda. But I think part of David Icke's mission, and he may very well be a shill or you know, a deep state actor, but I think the idea that he's putting out there, which I agree with, has to do with casting off the propaganda and trying to see ourselves as an individual with all of this potential that we are just not tapping into. That is an area that I believe has been suppressed going back thousands of years. And I think that is a very important path for people to walk on. And that's a path that I've been on for a while now. And I may never get there where I want to get, but I think the more people that start thinking along these lines, the better, because there's strength in numbers. Alex Jones, since he's on the page here, he's, you know, I saw a video of him with the Bohemian Grove thing around the same time that I discovered Alex Jones, or that I discovered David Icke and others. And I'll just say I don't trust Alex Jones. And again, if he says something here and there that is interesting, I'll take what I want from it and I'll cast the other stuff aside. He's not someone I follow. But I just find it hard to believe that he just waltzed right into the Bohemian Grove and broke the story and nothing happened to him. You know, I find that very suspicious. I don't trust the guy, and he's been a real hothead lately. He's kind of just annoying to watch, honestly. So anyway, moving on. The last thing I'm going to mention, the last individual I'm going to mention, is Jordan Maxwell. And this basic slide presentation changed my life. And I'm not going to talk about it right now. I'm going to just let you watch it for a minute.
On the dollar bill, you'll see on the back of the dollar bill, you'll see the symbol on the left-hand side of the bill, which is annuit coeptus, which means our enterprise is now a success, or our enterprise is crowned with success. Annuit coeptus. So you're saying, fine, so you have an enterprise and is now crowned with success. What enterprise are you talking about? Novus ordo seclorum. Novus is novus, meaning new. Ordo is order, and seclorum is where we get the word secular, meaning the world. So it's new order of the world, the new world order. George Bush's new world order is now a success. But the problem is this was put on the dollar bill back in 1934. 1934 is when the Federal Reserve actually finally took total control of the United States monetary system, and that's when they said it is now a success, because this is a symbol, this is an emblem of a secret society of Freemasons called the Illuminati, the German Bavarian Illuminati. They were a secret society founded in the south of Germany. They were called the Illuminati, the illuminated ones, the enlightened ones. They they connected themselves to another group of Freemasons in France, in the south of France, referred to as the Pierre de Sion, French Grand Orient Temple Masons. And so this symbol today, while it's on the back of a $1 bill, it is also incidentally on a document in the British Museum and in the Louvre Museum. Both have some of the original writings of that sect of Freemasons in Germany that are today on display. And on one of the documents, it has that exact symbol, Annuit Coeptis Novus Odosiclorum, and that was in 1774 that the Bavarian Illuminati drew up their plans for what they were going to do in America and how they were going to do it. And that's not a new, that's not just from 1934. That goes all the way back to 1774, 1775. It's a symbol of a secret society. The triangle at the top with the light emanating from around it is Horus, the god of the ancient Egyptians. Of course, this is an Egyptian pyramid. You don't find pyramids in America, you find them in Egypt. And that pyramid is the symbol of the eye, was in the Egyptian religion Horus, which was the newborn sun. Every morning when the sun came up, his name was Horus. There was that was the solar divinity in Egypt. Horus was God's son, the light of the world, who is risen. He is our risen Savior, our risen. And so Horus was referred to as God's son, and that's why the light is emanating from around, because it's the sun. The sun is a round eyeball of God. The ancient Egyptians believed the pupil of God was the sun, and He's watching you, and therefore the sun was very bright. And so today we even say someone who is extremely intelligent is brilliant. They're bright. And that's why God is, of course, the most brilliant of all. Therefore, the sun is the most brilliant because it's God's eye. All right, anyway, there are 13 layers on the pyramid. And the 1776 at the bottom is 1776. A lot of people think it's because of the country being founded in 1776. It has nothing to do with that. As I said, this is on a document published back in 1774, 75, and then in 1776, the Roman numerals appeared on it in Europe. So what it amounted to is that the 1776 was when this secret society actually formed itself into a secret society and put itself into operation. Like any other secret society or fraternal order, there's a few years in the formative stages. And then there's a time when they actually get a charter and come together and actually become an actual organization. And then they get a charter from the government and they actually are a legal organization. They were in operation in the 1760s, 1770s, but it wasn't until 1776 that they actually made themselves into a coherent order, and it was called the Order and Sect of the Illuminati. They were the basis for what we call today in our country the Bavarian Illuminati was the basis for what we call today the Colombian faction. The Colombian faction of the Illuminati came here right after this government was formed, and that's where we get today this Columbia Space Shuttle, Columbia Movies, Columbia Television, Columbia Records, everything, Columbia University. As a matter of fact, Columbia TV, Columbia Broadcasting System, CBS. What is the symbol for CBS? It's the all-seeing eye of CBS. It's the Colombian faction of a secret society that calls themselves the Colombians. And that's why our government is in the District of Columbia, because these guys own our government. They print our money, and they own not only the government, but they own you. You are their property. As a matter of fact, when you're born, your birth certificate, and on the bottom of the birth certificate, it says the Department of Commerce. It is a property of the Department of Commerce because you are nothing more than a piece of commercial material. That's why if you're out of work, you don't go to the unemployment office, you go to the office for, what is it called, human resources, because you're just a human resource. So in other words, these guys print the money, they run the country, and they own you, and they own everything around it. And so they make the laws, and that's why they can decide who can kill who, and who can get away with who, and who can get away with whatever, because they make the laws and they decide, all right? The new order of the world, our enterprise is now a success.
So that's Jordan Maxwell's basic slide presentation. That's a piece of it, which he did in the 90s. Now, Jordan Maxwell is obviously, much older now, and he's not always in the best health. If you watch more recent videos of him, sometimes he's alert and up, and other times he seems like he's having a bad day. Um, you can almost be guaranteed that this man has had a very difficult life, and he chose this path. But he has a lot of information out there for us to look at to educate us to what's going on, what's been going on behind the scenes for many years now. And while I do encourage you to look at all this stuff that's out there, I think it's important for people to know that Jordan doesn't get paid anything for all this stuff. According to himself, he had all this stuff stolen from him, and I don't even know if he's able to sell these DVDs anymore. And there's people impersonating him online, and he's always very adamant to tell people to go to jordanmaxwellshow.com, and that's his official site, jordanmaxwellshow.com. Any other site that claims to be him is basically someone making money off of his work. So if you want to support him, go to his site and see what you can get through his site so you can support him, because he's really sacrificed a lot to get this information to the people, and a lot of people owe him credit for bringing a lot of this stuff out in the open, and he will cite his influences as well, so you can go from there and find more information on this type of stuff by exploring the books he recommends and things like that. So to sort of finish this off, here's my blog, batshitcave.blogspot.com. And if you go here and you look at the archive on the side here, you can see all the different blogs I've done in the past few years, going back to 2016. So that's there. And if you want to contact me, this is my email, tinfoilhatfashion@gmail.com. I know that's kind of a long, ridiculous sounding email, but it is legitimate. I am there. If you have information that you think I might be interested in regarding any of my blogs or anything else, I do encourage you to let me know, whatever it is. Or if you just want clarification on something, if I got something wrong and you want to correct me, obviously, I want to. I don't want to spread lies. I want to spread truth. But of course, like everyone else, I have an opinion. So I'm going to put my opinion out there, and my opinion will hopefully evolve over time as I get more information and become more educated myself. So that's about it. I just want to give thanks to you who read my blogs and watch my videos, and sort of give you a little bit of an insight what my influences were, what got me started on this path, and what you can do is once you get into this stuff, you can look at your life and the things that and your own individual experience, and apply that to these ideas, and you can open people's minds up in a way that maybe I can't, or maybe that Jordan Maxwell can't, or anyone else. So the idea here is to get better as a human race, to 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 get beyond this propaganda model that has us all enslaved and deceived for so many years, and to begin to realize who we really are as a species, and get back to the level of greatness that I think most of us believe we once had, way back before time, before recorded time. So thanks again, and I will talk to you on the next blog.